Welcome back. So, in the last class we were discussing boundary value problems for general second order equations. So, this is y double dot equal to f of t y y dot. So, this is the equation and the boundary condition. So, this is in a less than t less than b and a0 ua minus a1 u dot a is equal to alpha b0 ub plus b1 u dot b equal to beta. Alpha beta are given real numbers and so this is 2a. So, the boundary conditions 1b. So, the condition was this a0 and a1 do not vanish simultaneously and similarly b0 and b1 do not vanish simultaneously. A formal approach to a solution of this boundary value problem 1a and 1b, totally called 1, was through an initial value problem. Discussed this last time. U dot equal to u double dot equal to f t u u dot, call it 2a, and now we impose conditions on u and u dot only at t equal to a. So, this the first one is sorry for the this thing. So, this is not u, this is y. y dot u a minus a1 u dot a equal to alpha. So, there is no change in the first condition and now we want a since it is second order equation, want to impose one more initial condition and this we want it to be independent of the first one. So, this is minus C1 u dot a equal to s. S is a parameter at our choice and again a real number, and this is 2b, and by independence what I mean is this a1 c0 we have fixed c0 and c1 such that this is 1. Okay. So, let u be a solution of IVP in the interval a b. So, last time we stated a theorem where some sufficient conditions were imposed on the right hand side function f, so that the solution of the initial value problem exists for all t in this interval, and with this u we form this real valued function p of s. Remember, the second condition on u depends on s. So, we form this b0. Okay. So, u we emphasize the dependence on s. So, we say that u at t and emphasizing the dependence on s. So, this is u b s plus b1 u dot Bs minus beta. So, just notice that this phi of s is nothing but the second boundary condition. Okay. So, if there exists, so this is the conclusion we drew last time. So, if there exists a star such that P of a star is 0, then y given by y of t is equal to u of t star is a solution of the BVP. Okay. And this is called shooting method. So, so in this approach we attack this bound value problem through an initial value problem, and this is a big if. Okay. So, so this in general for every s star satisfying this phi s star equal to 0, that means the roots of the function phi, we get a solution of the boundary value problem. Okay. So, last time I stated a uniqueness result. So, let me just again recall. So, theorem 1. Okay. So, let R be the region, this T U1 U2, T is in the interval AB and U1 U2 in R. Okay. This condition looks a bit stronger, but that is sufficient for the solution of the initial value problem to exist in the entire interval AB. Okay. So, suppose F is uniformly Lipschitz in U1 U2 variables in R. Okay. So, that last time I stated that, let me just state one more time, U1 U2 minus f of t V1 V2 is less than or equal to some M1 U1 minus V1 plus M2 U2 minus V2. Then BVP has as many solutions as the roots of phi. So, for every root of this function, real valued function, so remember this phi is from R to R. Okay. So, so now we go to the second theorem, some uniqueness result. Okay. Theorem 2, in addition to the hypothesis of theorem 1, assume. So, now some smoothness condition on f, remember f is this f of t u1 u2, okay, this function of 3 variables t and u1. So, this del f by del u1 is positive and del f by del u2 is bounded. This is not norm, just absolute value in R. that is the region stated in theorem 1, and so A 0 B 0 A 0 A 1 have same sign and B 0 B 1 have same sign, and A 0 and B 0 do not vanish simultaneously. Okay. So, we have already assumed that A 0 and A 1 do not vanish simultaneously and B 0 B 1 do not vanish simultaneously. Those are standing hypotheses on the boundary conditions, and in addition to that, now we are assuming that A 0 and A 1 have the both have the same sign, B 0 B 1 have the same sign, and A 0 B 0 do not vanish simultaneously. Then the BVP has a unique solution. So, let me sketch a proof of this. It is really simple and just uses one variable calculus, but little technical in detail. So, sufficient to show that phi has a unique root. Okay. So, if you just recall the conclusion of theorem 1, the BVP will have as many solutions as the roots of phi. So, if we show that phi has a unique root, then BVP will have unique root. So, again let me recall. So, recall this phi of S is B 0 U B S plus B 1 U dot B S, and U is the solution of the initial value problem. Okay. And since phi is a real valued function defined on real line, so this is accomplished. Okay. So, we show phi has a unique root by showing that its derivative d phi by ds is bounded away from 0. d phi by ds is bounded away from 0. That is d phi by ds is bigger than or equal to c positive, or d phi by ds less than or equal to minus c strictly less than 0 for all s. So, either it stays all the time, for all s it stays positive, or it stays negative. Okay. So, just as an example, okay, if you take E s, its derivative is e to the s, okay, the derivative e to the s is bigger than or equal to 0 for all s in R, but it is not bounded away from 0. Okay. So, infimum e to the s in R is 0. Okay. So, e to the s is not an example. So, once this is satisfied, so you can show that. So, this is a simple calculus lemma. So, suppose phi from R to R be such that d phi by ds is bounded away from 0. So, then there exists unique S star such that P of S star is 0. Okay. So, it is a very simple thing. So, you just it is not hard to see that thing. Okay. Now, coming back to the proof. So, you have to establish that d phi by d s is bounded away from 0. Okay. So, for this we introduce something. Okay. So, introduce xi t is du by ds ts. Okay. So, I am taking partial differential equation derivative with respect to s. Remember, s appears in the initial condition. Okay. So, now I am varying that s. So, I am considering u as a function of s initial condition. Okay. It appears in the initial condition. Okay. And now look at the equation again for the u. So, look at, recall that. So, u double dot equal to f of t u u dot. Okay. So, u now implicitly depends on this s. So, we will differentiate this equation with respect to s. So, differentiate with respect to s. Okay. So, this is this is what we learn in general theory, the continuous dependence on the of the solution of the initial value problem with respect to initial data. Okay. So, if you do that thing, then we get xi double dot equal to, so let me just write it, p t xi dot plus q t xi. Okay. So, remember this is xi, the derivative of the solution of the initial value problem with respect to s. So, what is p? So, where p t, just coming from this, you are differentiating the right hand side with respect to s, and so you are using just the implicit differentiation. So, this is what you get. So, d f by d u dot. So, now everything you let me write once, then it is understood. Okay. And q t is just, t does not depend on s. So, you do not have to worry about that, and same thing. Okay. So, this is called variation equation. Okay. So, this plays an important role now, variation equation. And remember why this xi is important. If you go look at the expression for phi, okay, we are analyzing this phi is nothing but u b s b 0 plus b 1 u dot b s, and we are trying to show the derivative of phi is bounded away from 0. So, what is the derivative of phi? Phi is nothing but this derivative of u with respect to s, and that is precisely xi. Okay. So, that is why this role of xi is important. Okay. So, now you see that from hypothesis this q is positive. Okay. Let me see. By hypothesis q is positive and p is bounded. Okay. So, we are going to make use of this. Okay. uh, so let me again rewrite here. So J double dot equal to Pt J dot. So you keep on recalling this. So this, let me call it 3a, and similarly if you now differentiate the initial conditions to a, what you get is J of a is equal to, you do that thing. So let me just write what you get is, by differentiating initial conditions to a with respect to s. Okay, so everything with respect to s, we obtain a0 J a minus a1 J dot a. This is 0 because this is alpha there. So alpha does not depend on s. So that's get that one. So C0 J a minus C1 J dot a, and there is an s here. So when I differentiate with respect to s, I will get 1. Okay, and by our choice of C0, you immediately see that J a, if you solve these two equations, you get a1 and J dot a is equal to a0. So let me call this as 3b. Okay. Okay, now just concentrate on this condition and remember a0 a1, they have the same sign and they do not vanish simultaneously. So let us fix. Okay. So assume, so the other case is similar, assume a0 is non-negative and a1 is non-negative. Okay. And look at the conditions 3b. Okay. So if a1 is positive, if a1 is positive, then J a is positive, and this implies J t is positive in a small neighborhood in this interval a to a epsilon. Okay. So there is no problem there. And if a1 is 0, then a0 is positive by our choice, and look at the second condition, J dot a equal to a0, a0 is positive. So J is again increasing, so again that implies so J t is in some a to a epsilon. Okay. This epsilon may be different. What we are trying to say here is J remains positive with our this assumption important. Okay. If we assume the both are negative, then we will have negative thing here, but just for definiteness let us fix the signs of a0 and a1. Okay. So that is what we get. Okay. So therefore J t is positive for t in a epsilon for some epsilon positive. Okay. So claim, so this is again very simple calculus argument, J t is positive for all t in a b. So up to b the J remains positive. So only at a it may be 0 or it may be positive. Okay. So that is the claim. Okay. So once we have this thing, it's the proof follows very easily, and this is also very simple argument. So, suppose not, a calculus argument, suppose not. So, what does that mean? So, there exists some T star in A B such that J T star is less than or equal to 0. So, maybe better draw some diagram. So, there is A here, there is T star there, and there is B here. Okay. So, we already know that J is positive in some small neighborhood, that is important. Okay, it is positive there. Okay. So, it may be 0 here, okay, and then it comes in. So, looking at the picture, so therefore, J has a positive maximum, it could be just relative maximum, no problem, in A T star. Okay. And we want to rule out this A. T star is already ruled out because J T star is less than or equal to 0. So, it cannot be a positive maximum. So, we want to rule out this positive maximum at A. So, how to do that thing? So, if A 0 is positive, then J dot A is A 0 positive. So, positive maximum cannot occur at A. Okay. And if A 0 is 0, then look at J J double dot A from the equation. So, this is, go back to the equation. So, J double dot A is equal to P T J dot A plus Q T J A, and now we are assuming A 0 is 0. So, that means this is 0, okay, and this is Q T J A, and J A is A 1. So, this is strictly positive. So, and at a maximum the second derivative cannot be positive, it can only be less than or equal to 0. So, therefore, again the positive maximum cannot occur at A. Okay. So, that means what? The positive maximum occurs at an interior point T 0. Let us go back. Okay. So, therefore, a positive maximum occurs at T, call it T 0 or T 1, okay, T 1 in A T star. So, at an interior point. So, this is an interior point, it is not either A or T star. So, then we know that when a maximum occurs at an interior point. So, therefore, we have this J of T 1 is strictly positive, J dot T 1 is 0 because it is the maximum, and one more condition, this J double dot T 1 is less than or equal to 0. Okay. This is from calculus. Okay. But again you go back to the equation, variation equation. So, J dot T 1 is equal to Pt xi dot Pt1 xi dot T1 plus Qt1 xi T1, and again this is 0 and this is positive. So, whole thing is positive, but at a maximum xi double dot T1 is negative. So, this is a contradiction. So, this is a contradiction. Okay. So, therefore, our claim is true. So, therefore, what is our claim? Xi t is positive for all t in A B up to B. Okay. So, that is important. Okay. So, this is the first step, and the remaining steps are very straightforward. So, now look at, again go back to the look at the variation equation. Xi double dot equal to Pt xi dot plus Qt xi. Okay. So, everything at t. Okay. So, let me just write that. And just now we have proved that this xi t is positive up to B and Q is positive by assumption. So, this one is positive for all t in A. Okay. So, therefore, we have this inequality. We can put greater than or just. Okay. Okay. And fortunately, we can integrate an inequality. We cannot differentiate an inequality, but we can certainly integrate an inequality. So, integrate this and preserving the sign of inequality, integrate this. You will not do directly. So, you have to multiply by exponential 0 to t. Let me write Ps. You multiply by this, and then this is the integrating factor. So, multiply and integrate. Okay. So, what you obtain is so xi dot t is bigger than a 0. This is coming from the condition xi dot a equal to not 0 here a. So, our point is a. Okay. So, this is exponential a to t Ps Ts, not Ps. So, let me use some other variable, maybe eta d. So, this is true for all t in A B up to B. No problem. Okay. And now, this integrate one more time. So, integrate one more time. Okay, to obtain. So, finally, we have xi t is bigger than a 1 plus a 0. So, there is a double integral. So, let me write it first and then. So, a to t, let me write d eta and then exponential as it is a to eta p eta 1 d eta 1. So, there is a double integral here. Okay. That is fine. Okay. Now, you use the hypothesis. So, use hypothesis that mod p is less than or equal to m. So, we are just using one sided. So, p is bigger than or equal to minus m. Okay. M is some positive constant. Okay. And then if you plug in this hypothesis on p, so we obtain j dot t is bigger than a 0 e to the minus m t minus a, and j t bigger than a 1 plus a 0. So, you have to do some integration there. Let me just write it, e to the m t minus a divided by m. In the second inequality there are the double integral. So, if you do that double integral, you get this thing, and this is valid for all t in a b. Okay. So, remember again, so you have to just remember that thing. So, recall phi s is b 0 u b s plus b 1 u dot b s. Okay. So, therefore, d phi by d s, okay, is just b 0 d u by d s at b s plus b 1 d u dot by d s at b s, and by our notation this is nothing but j of b s plus b 1 j dot at b s. Okay. And our aim is to show that d phi by d s is bounded away from 0. Okay. That you remember that. Okay. So, now we have got the expressions for j and j dot for all t. So, in particular for t equal to b, and let us see whether they are bounded away from 0. Okay. So, that is our next task. Okay. Just okay. So, if a 0 so look again, let me go back there, just look at this, look at here. Okay. So, both j dot b is greater than or equal to 0 and j b, since there is a 1 there, and okay, so and a 0 and a 1 are not simultaneously 0, j b is always bounded away from 0. There is no problem about j b. Okay. This is always bounded away from 0, and this in general not. Okay. That is just I want to. So, note that j b is, no, let me write y b, let me write t is bounded away from 0 for all t in a b. Of course, we are just interested in the final point b. The same is true for j dot t if a 0 is strictly positive. Okay. So, the trouble occurs when a 0 is 0, and now again look at the conditions. Okay. So, if A0 is 0, then B0 is not 0. So, this is one of the hypotheses. Okay. In the second theorem, we want this A0, B0 should not vanish simultaneously. Okay. And also B0 also B0 B1 have the same sign. Okay. If A0 is 0, B0 is not 0 and B0 and B1 have the same sign. And again now look at phi s, recall this B0 U Bs, okay, plus B1 U dot Bs. Okay. So, our only concern now is what happens if A0 is 0. So, if A0 is 0, then B0 is not 0 and B0 and B1 they have same sign. So, if B1 is 0, that is no problem. If B1 is not 0, B1 and B0 have same sign. Okay. And we are already seen that this derivative of u with respect to s is bounded away from 0. Okay. And this is just infimum could be 0, but in this case we have B0 not 0. So, therefore, again d phi by ds d phi by ds is bounded away from 0 even when A0 is 0. So, let me again recall this. Okay. So, if A0 is 0, by our hypothesis B0 is not 0 and B0 and B1 have the same sign. Okay. And that is important because the B0 and B1 they, okay, let me, there is a beta here, okay, that does not matter. Okay. So, there is a beta there. B0 and when I take derivative with respect to s, that beta anyhow goes away. So, important that B0 and B1 have the same sign and B0 is not 0. So, when I take the derivative, it again bound, I already know that J is bounded away from 0. I already know that. The only problem with respect to J dot and that is now taken care of by this additional hypothesis. So, remember this is additional hypothesis. Okay. So, when A0 is 0, we required that B0 is different from 0 and we also required that B0 B1 have the same sign, and that assures that d phi by ds is again bounded away from 0 even when A0 is 0. So, therefore, d phi by ds is bounded away from 0 in all the cases, and this completes the proof. Okay. So, this very simple calculus, one dimensional calculus tools, very nice proof. Okay. Of course, one can always question this whether they are necessary or they can be weakened. Okay. And that is you can always look into the literature and see if weaker hypotheses are possible. Okay. So, again let me recall Okay, this is the one so again last time I stated this example, hope you have worked out. So, again let me recall that. So, this y double dot plus lambda E y equal to 0. So, y 0 equal to 0, y 1 equal to 0. Okay. So, this lambda is positive. Okay. So, I approach this boundary value problem via this initial value. So, this is BVP. So, this is IVP. So, u double dot plus lambda EU equal to 0. So, you put one this initial condition, same thing, and now this is an independent initial condition, I put a parameter S. Okay. So, last time I mentioned that this can be solved explicitly. A solution of IVP can be found in explicit form. Okay. So, do it. So, it is similar to the one we did in case of conservative equations. So, this is also in conservative equation explicit form. Okay. So, using that explicit form, obviously it contains this parameter S. Okay. So, next question is there an S star? So, you call this solution as U T S. Okay. Is there an S star such that U at 1 S star is 0, because that is the condition we want at t equal to 1. Okay. So, that is the question. So, if yes, then y of t is equal to u of t S star is a solution of BVP. Okay. So, do this thing and also do this and also discuss uniqueness. So, why I am stating this example is that this e to the u in this e to the u is not globally Lipschitz, is not globally Lipschitz, it is locally Lipschitz. Okay. Okay. So, this condition is not really necessary. What we want is this solution to the initial value problem to exist for the interval in question. In this situation we have just 0 1. Okay. So, we are satisfied if a solution of the initial value problem exists for all t in this interval. Okay. We are not bothered whether it blows up outside that thing. Okay. So, there are the possibilities of weaker hypothesis. Okay. So, with that thing I come to an end of this simple discussion on boundary value problems. So, we first discussed the linear boundary value problems, in which we have the advantage of fundamental solutions from the linear system, but in the case of nonlinear system, our approach was through this IVP, okay, and you can now refer literature and even see more general problems involving these boundary values. With that brief discussion on the boundary value problems for second order equations, we come to the end of this course on ordinary differential equations. We hope that you, the listeners, have enjoyed the course. The topics of the course were mainly based on the syllabus of ODE courses in most of our universities and other institutions. As you might have noticed, we have omitted some important topics such as regular and singular Sturm-Liouville theory and corresponding eigenvalue problem or spectral problems, and also systems with periodic coefficients and the corresponding Floquet theory. At the same time, we have added as a trade off some discussion on qualitative theory of autonomous systems and shooting method for the boundary value problem of a general second order equations. The qualitative theory for autonomous systems is an important topic not only in physical and engineering sciences, but also in mathematical biology, especially mathematical epidemiology, where many problems have been modeled as first order autonomous ODEs. The subject field of ODE is quite vast, and it is not at all possible to include all the topics in a single course to satisfy the various users of the subject. We, however, hope that those who have followed the course meticulously will be able to read and understand the cited references, further topics of their interest. With our energy levels permitting and time permitting, we certainly hope to return with another course on ODE in future, comprising of Sturm-Liouville theory, Floquet theory, and some advanced topics in qualitative theory, and perhaps some topics in non-autonomous systems also. We would like to certainly hear from you regarding the contents and usefulness of this course. Your constructive criticisms are always welcome. Thank you.